Unbelievable.
Yeah, because something, I just got to make a new list. I just got to have a separate text list where I could put everybody, start messing who was on and try to remember me. That ain't going to work. Me and memory, we're all fading. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's move on. We're still in Mishnah Aleph. How do you like that? Okay. Hey, this is not a simple text.
Oh, no.
It is not. This is the oldest, deepest text ever. And it has to be handled.
It's really heavy.
And it is, and
Nice and heavy.
and Rabbi Kaplan gives us clues.
Doesn't give a backing.
Rabbi? No, sorry?
I interrupted you.
No, it's okay.
Can you repeat what Pele is?
Yeah. Okay, so Pele means literally wonder. But if you spell Pele backwards, it's Aleph. Aleph is always the energy, the first letter, but represents the energy of Alufo Shel Olam. Alufo Shel Olam means chief of the world, which means God. So if you look at it, it's the most sublime of all the letters because it's a silent letter. So Pele is also one of that. They're interchangeable because God is a wonder. So the Alufo Shel Olam, the Aleph, is also a wonder. Okay? So the wondrous paths. Okay, 32. We're still in the same line. Okay? We're here in Sefer Yetzirah. We're still in the same line. 32 wondrous paths engraved to God. That's basically the statement. With 32 paths, God engraved. So we have to, and no, this is not right. See, I've got you.
I was one page over. We stopped here that I remember. I don't know.
I will tell you in a minute.
My bookmark was on 12:13.
We're going to start on page. I can't even read that number. 1 second.
Got a magnifying glass?
Yeah, right? Page 12.
Oh, okay, that's where I was.
And I've got extra copies here for anybody who wants. Okay? I think that's it. I don't know if even I stapled these or something. They might be loose, very loose. All right. With 32 wondrous paths, God engraved and created the world with 3 books. That is the basic statement that we're working on. Once again, the basic statement that we're working on from the very first Mishnah is with 32 wondrous paths, God engraved and created his world with 3 books. Sefer, and Sipur. Okay? And we're going to try to understand that. And now you'll see in the text that we have, there's a string of a lot of names of God, because different people have different texts. He chose the text which has all of these names of God: Lord of hosts, God of Israel, living God, King of the universe. And as we're going to see, really what it basically is, each one of those names basically goes from like the top down and then down back up. Okay? It's kind of like a breath. Okay? We breathe in, the air goes in, and then we breathe out, the breath goes out. Okay? But let's just get understanding the statement, and we're talking about wisdom. So I said that we're starting on page 12. Because we spoke about wondrous paths of wisdom. So here, we're understanding that wisdom, okay, he starts off actually on page 11, that wisdom is seen as pure, undifferentiated mind. It is pure thought, which has not yet been broken up into differentiated ideas. This is the place to go, where we're always striving to get to, the place of no thought. Okay? The place of no thought is where the most dynamic insights come, when we're in that space. You can be working on a problem for a long time, and then all of a sudden you'll go take a walk, or you'll go to the bathroom. Most of the times it's always in the bathroom. Okay, for most people, like, darn it. And you can't think of Torah thought in the bathroom. So I got to think of the Rogatchever Rebbe, who tied a string around his finger and pulled to where it was so tight, so the pain distracted him from thinking Torah thoughts in the bathroom. Okay? And then I had to jump quickly to Rabbi Yonasan Ibshitz, who accidentally thought a Torah thought in the bathroom and fasted for 30 days. Okay?
Oh my.
Okay?
Rabbi Jonas of where?
Yonasan Ibshitz, the Ishbitzer Rebbe. Okay? So in any case, or let's say when you're in the car, or, the idea here is the no thought state. Okay? Undifferentiated thought, very much like the seed. It's all part of us. It's within us. That's what we're trying to access. Okay? Because through there comes all of the elements of dynamic creation. Okay? Interesting how we're coming into Rosh Hashanah. Amazing day. Right? It's a day where people are starting to awaken to, we understand that in the past everybody would get very fearful in these days, But now, because we're in a glass generation, we have to start to contemplate other thoughts.
Did you say glass or glass?
Glass. We're in a glass
You said
generation.
glass.
The earlier generations were copper. Copper you could smash, you could hit. Right? Yeah, we come from the copper generation. Glass is fragile. You gotta handle the generation these days. You can't handle them like you did post World War II. Okay? For whatever reason, it's just the reality. Okay?
Amen.
Okay. So the idea really here is to get to that place of wisdom. Okay? So he goes on the top of page 12. Wisdom is the level above all division where everything is a simple unity. That's the level of consciousness that we always try to reach. It is in recognition of this that the Talmud states, who is wise? He who learns from every man. This is a very interesting idea. This is from Pirkei Avos, basic. It says, Ezehu Hacham, who is wise? It's not somebody who knows all of Encyclopedia Britannica or whatever. Okay? It's he who learns from every man. Halomed mikol adam. Which is what? He does learn from everybody. It's a headspace. Okay? It's where, according to Reb Kaplan, he says, it is on the level of wisdom that all men are one. So he's looking at every single thing as one simple unity, and that's the level of his consciousness. And then when when people say things or do things and things happen, so then he's open to the teaching. Okay? He's open to what they teach him. Hence, if one is on this level, he must learn from every human being, and indeed from all of creation. Okay? Seem to be, you would think it's the humblest person. Okay? Not so. According to the Baal Shem Tov, this means that a person on the level of wisdom must learn from evil. Actually, there's a Zohar that says that also. Okay? You must learn even from evil, from Ra itself. How do you do that? Right? So the Baal Shem Tov does explain, basically, is when you see yourself, when you are in the spell of your evil inclination, and you see how motivated you are, so then you can say, wow, I should be motivated like this to do a mitzvah. Now hopefully you'll thank your Yetzirah and you won't do whatever comes upon you to do. Okay? So the idea really is to learn from even the evil inclination. Okay? Even when the evil inclination spurns us to do things, say things, think things, you got to learn from that. Wow. I can learn from this. And then you have to contemplate what you can learn. Like I always bring the example of when me and my friend we escaped the yeshiva one night when the Batman movie came out, the one way long time ago, right? With Jack Nicholson, right? And we're running through the streets to catch it because it's got to be late, and we look at ourselves and we say, why aren't we running like this when it comes to doing mitzvah? All right, here we are running to catch this show. Okay, it's obvious. Okay. The thing is to learn from evil. It is also on the levels below wisdom that people are separated into different individuals. Only on lower levels does the division between good and evil exist. So in other words, you're taking yourself to a very high level of consciousness. When you're in wisdom consciousness, everything is the same, right? You're never freaked out. Like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, he said his soul was in the level of Atzilut, and everything was unbelievably good to him. That was his perception of everything. A guy would come to him and say this, say that. It was all so good. That was his level of consciousness.
Even though it wasn't.
It was, because to him, he was from Atzilut saying, wow, do you know what this is going to do for you? And he would show the guy, this is going to do this and this and this and this. And that's only part of the story. Okay? It's like, he couldn't reveal the entire story because then you take away the person's free will. Most of the problems why we suffer is we just don't know what God is up to. If you knew full well what God is up to, you wouldn't have a problem with it. Even though there might be... See, suffering and pain is different. Right? Suffering is where you don't know why. Pain is you know why. Like you go to a gym, you're working out, it hurts. But you know there's good that's come out of it. You're willing to accept that pain. Right? Suffering is we just don't know. It doesn't seem to have a reason to it. Okay? The Talmud going on. The Talmud likewise states, who is wise? He who perceives the future. This is an amazing thing. Okay? In other words, haroet anolad. Oh man, so many people need this. It's amazing. My kids, they're great, right? To see the nolad, which means what is going to come out from this action that bleeds into this action that bleeds into this action. Okay? In other words, if you leave the chicken soup out all night, it's going to spoil. Okay? It's something that is birthed from being, not smart. Okay? And there's so many other cases, okay? I call it kind of like a peripheral vision, even though that's not necessarily to see the steps that are going to happen. If you do this, this will come to this, and this will come to that, right? So they say actually, a chacham is greater than a prophet, would you believe? A chacham, a wise man, is greater than a prophet. All prophets have to get from the lowest sphera of malchut, while a chacham, he gets from Zer Anpin. Because why? He sees all the steps. He sees what leads to what, and this leads to that, and this leads to that, and therefore, you can't do it. Or you do this, and he sees the outcome of what will happen. Okay?
He sees the end in the beginning. He sees the end in the beginning.
Yes. So that's greater than a prophet. A prophet is only when he gets a message from God. This guy, he's always seeing what's going to happen through just plain wisdom. Okay?
So that's logic.
Well,
It's beyond
in a certain sense, but then it's deeper. Logic is Bina. Okay? That's the next one. This is because wisdom is the pure mind force that transcends time. On the level of wisdom, past, present, and future have not yet been separated. Hence, on this level, one can see the future just like the past and present. Okay? What it says with Chachma, when it says Bereshit, bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz, Bereshit, one of the ideas or translations of the word Bereshit is with wisdom. God made the world with, the first thing that God made the world with was wisdom. Okay? And God, of course, he's also associated with past, present, and future. Everything is happening at the same time. The antithesis of wisdom is understanding, meaning that's the outgrowth, the next thing. The Hebrew word for understanding is called bina, which comes from the word bain, which means between. Okay? In other words, it's between what's going to happen and Chachma itself. Understanding is the level immediately below wisdom. It is on the level of understanding that ideas exist separately, where they can be scrutinized and comprehended. While wisdom is pure, undifferentiated mind, understanding is the level where division exists and where things are delineated and defined as separate objects. Okay, so looking at things, the idea of Bina also is associated with the name of Elohim. Now you're going to see that Elohim, we know, as we learned, that the first chapter of Genesis, the number of times that God's name is mentioned is 32. And it's the name Elohim. The whole first chapter is Elohim. It's God. Okay? It means that's the beginning of kind of like a delineation. Is these 32 paths, which is really Bina, okay, which is the name of Elohim. On the level of wisdom, all men are included in a single world soul. Understanding is the level of neshama, where the soul of each individual assumes a distinct identity, and each one is seen as a separate identity. So the idea really here is to be above the neshama, which is the level of chachma, which is where what? Everything is God. We always, and I always reiterate this, we're always striving for one level of consciousness. The highest level of consciousness is God is all there is. That means no matter what happens, no matter who you're talking to, you're always connected to God. The one universal force is always in front of us, within us, without us, always existing. Every single thing you can turn and must turn into a God experience. Okay? Can you imagine your day being so amazing? You wake up in the morning and go, wow, I can hardly wait to see the unbelievable experiences that God is going to bring to me today. Right? And every single thing is going to be a God experience. I can hardly wait. And then now, before your day even begins, now try this. Before even your day begins, project yourself as if the day has ended. And you're looking back on the day. And you go, wow, that was such an unbelievable day that God presented to me such experiences. I experienced God in unbelievable ways today. Imagine that, okay? You have to do that with your year as well, by the way. Rosh Hashanah, the thoughts you think, right, on Rosh Hashanah are going to set the pace for the rest of the year.
It's the Jubilee year for me.
That you have to project your year as if it's over before it starts. While you're eating the apple with honey, you have to project as if the year is over. You look back at the year and you go, whoa, that was an unbelievable year. That was an unbelievably sweet year. That was such a year of God experience. Okay? Imagine now. Okay? Everything gets to God is all there is. Everything, all the holy masters, that's how they lived in terms of their level of consciousness. Didn't matter where the message came from. Was it a message? And most likely it always is a message, right? There was once a great story. I don't know if I can interpret it, but I think it was the Maggid. He heard about the Baal Shem Tov. He was the main student, ended up being, right? And he traveled to go visit him in the first time, and he went, and he got into what we'll call yechidus. He got into a private meeting with the Baal Shem Tov, and he expected like unbelievable Torah, right? And the Baal Shem Tov was talking about horses and what he feeds his horses and things like that. And the guy's going, and he leaves and he goes like,
somehow.
I think he went to him again, and he started talking about wagons and the axles of the wagons, and he started talking about mundane stuff, right? But really, he's talking total sodot in the Kabbalistic world, right? But obviously, the Maggid wasn't getting it, right? Till finally that night, the Maggid's packing his bags. I'm out of here. I'm in a circus. This is a circus, right? And the Baal Shem Tov calls him up and he says, here, can you read this text of the Eitz Chaim here? Right? Eitz Chaim is like one of the most deepest Kabbalistic works of the Ari. He says, just read this text and give me an explanation. So he looks at it and, he's read these texts before. These guys are masters, right? I'll have every text. He reads it and he goes, okay, so it's talking about like this, and this malach, this angel is on this level, and this angel's over here. Let me read it for you. And then he starts reading it, and all of a sudden, as he starts reading it, all of a sudden there's a fire, there's a thunder, and lightning starts happening in the room. And all of a sudden he sees these fire angels all around, and he goes under the table. The Maggid hides under the table, right? Till it's over, right? He says, that's how you read it. Okay, I got it, okay? That's how it should be read, okay?
What's the name of the book?
It's Chaim.
Yeah,
The Tree of Life, okay?
that's okay. It's fine.
So neshama is a level of separation already. We're trying to reach above neshama. Okay? The divine name associated with understanding is Elohim. This is the plural word. It's a plural word, would you think about it? Since understanding implies the plurality of forces. I don't know why he's talking about Elohim now, because we're talking about Chachma. Okay? As a matter of fact, here, skip to the last line of that page. The very last line, it says, wisdom is the water, while understanding represents the pipes that channel it. Okay? We're trying to get into the fluid water state. So here now, the top of page 13. The 32 paths are expressed as letters and numbers. It's kind of a hard way to think about it, but something abstract kind of came to me. You know? Why does it begin with this? Why does the Sefer Yetzirah begin with this? The 32 paths. You know, everything, 32 is the name of Lev, heart. Heart. Lamed Beit, 32. Everything comes from heart, and everything goes to heart. It's all about heart. Okay, that's rule 1. It's all about heart. And the idea really here is to access the heart that is within us already. Okay? Now the problem is that gets to the next word, engraved, which we'll get to. Let's go back here. The 32 paths are expressed as the letters and numbers. Since these represent division, they are manifestations of understanding. Hence, wisdom represents nonverbal thought, while understanding is its verbalization. In this respect, wisdom and understanding are seen as being male and female respectively. In the Kabbalah, wisdom is seen as the father, Abba, while understanding is the mother. You always have to know that. When you look in the array of the 10 Sefirot here that I'll show you on page 28, I think it was, here, I go by this one, okay? We have number 2 and number 3. Number 2 is always associated with father, and number 3 is always associated with mother. Okay? Mother gives birth to everything before it. The light travels through Keter to Chachma to Bina and then down. Okay? Chachma father just gives the seed to mother. Mother takes the seed and breaks it down and then gives birth. So the male represents unchanneled creative force. This can only be brought into fruition when delineated, enclosed, and channeled by the female womb. It is for this reason that the Sefer Yetzirah calls the primary letters mothers. That's an interesting one. Okay? We'll get to. This also resolves another difficulty. Earlier we said that the 32 paths represent the heart, since the Hebrew word for heart, Lev, actually spells out the number 32. The heart, however, is normally associated with understanding, while these paths are said to pertain wisdom. Aha! So it's really, but the paths merely channel wisdom, while the substance of the paths themselves is understanding. Meaning you have to go through understanding in order to access wisdom. And which, once again, wisdom is that undifferentiated state of mind that we get into. Okay? All right, so that's wisdom. Undifferentiated mind that God created the world with these 32 paths of wisdom. Now, he used the word engraved. It's a very tough word, engraved. I'm still toying with it. I'm not saying I got it down. Okay? The Ramak asked the question is what's the difference? It should be impressed. Because we do have in all of the Kabbalistic text about what's called an impression. That when God basically withdrew himself to make a world, there was left an impression of the light within the sphere, within the vacated space. But here it's not using the word impression, it's using the word engrave. So if those who have the photocopies, they might have every single word that I circled, right? The text states that the Creator used 32 paths to engrave, so as to create his universe. What is this engraving part? Okay? So the word here is hakak.
Hakak?
Hakak. Chet kuf kuf. Chet kuf kuf. This usually has the connotation of removing a material, just like you're engraving. When you're engraving, you have a hammer and a chisel and a stone or a clay, actually they have, that you chisel out. You're removing something from it, okay? You're hollowing something out. Why is there a hollowing out? What is there a hollowing out of? Then he brings a verse, right? Engrave, hakak yourself a dwelling in a rock, that he spoke to Isaiah. Derived from this root are the same words of chok or chukah, which means a rule or a decree. Since rules and laws serve to remove some of the individual's freedom or action, I don't know why he gets to that conclusion, okay? But a chok is, by definition, when we look at a chok, there's two types of mitzvahs, a mishpat and a chok. A mishpat is a rule that has makes some kind of sense. You can make some kind of logical reasoning for it. That's a mishpat. And then you'll have a chok. Chok has no reason. Paraduma, right? Paraduma doesn't make sense, right? But yet Hashem is basically saying, do this. You got to do this, right? You got to be quiet. You almost have to silence your mind. You have to turn off your mind buzz, and you just got to, okay, go left. Just go left. But, you know, no matter what your senses are telling you, no. Okay? So it's kind of a removal of individual's freedom of action, which is kind of strange to me, that kind of connotation. You know, my Rosh Hashiva says, you know, when a chassan and kala, when a bride and a groom, right, are under the chuppah, and here they are, they're about to consecrate a marriage, right? And there's a chuppah, the holy divine presence is there. And then my Rosh Hashiva, Zitzal, he would say, once you limit yourself, then you can see God. Once you're now committed to this person, or you've chosen to go this path, only then you can see God. And it really is truly amazing when you think about it. Once you've committed to a path, then you allow God to manifest in your life. By the way, the ultimate sefer of that commitment is Yesod, Yosef. Yosef was the one who was totally committed. Because why? Potiphar was trying to entice him, but he stayed with his commitment. And because of that, he was the conduit of the entire food supply of the entire world because of that. So he limited himself, but look what happened at the end. How much he saw God in his life. The brothers come down, and every single one of the dreams manifest, and he becomes the viceroy. Okay? Thus, the word chakak is closely related. This is another one. Listen, you guys, if you kids can help me, if you chime in, if something comes to mind, please help me, okay? Thus, the word chakak is closely related to machak, which means to erase, as well as to the root lakach, which means to remove or to take, okay? So I circled engrave, rule, decree, erase, remove, or take, okay? We have all of these concepts, and how do we string them all together in terms of the first move of creation, where God, what is the first move with the 32 or in 32? It's engraving, okay? It's all about the engraving. What you got? Anybody got anything? I could drink my coffee while you're talking. What?
Sachak. For the sukkah. For the sukkah.
Schach is spelled differently.
It sounds the same.
Samech, yes, it's interesting how
Doesn't
you
it?
say that.
You see what I'm
A lot of
saying?
times in Kabbalah,
It's like-
things that sound the same could be a connection, right? Could be.
Like taking, I don't know. It's just that just came up. And
Just
then
don't
it-
take your neighbor's tree
then
branches.
sukkah, and then hukah. It's like sukkah.
Then
All
the
of that was
mitzvah.
like, It's
Is
just
a witness
keeps
against
connecting.
What
I
is?
don't know, maybe it's just
Your
because I'm
mitzvah is
thinking
a
about when we
witness
think about
against you. Because
For you. Witness. Averas are a witness against you.
But you took your neighbors in order to use.
Oh,
the
I'm just
law.
joking with that. Don't you think?
I would assume.
Not allowed to do
I would
Yeah.
assume if the word is to engrave, really it's not engrave. From what I take from what you're saying, it's like to hew or to carve out. So when you chisel against a rock, say for instance you chisel it, you're defacing, you're erasing a piece of that mountain from itself, and you're taking it away. Do you carve something out and just leave the debris there? No, you cart it away, and then you have a nice, beautiful building.
that. Okay.
You don't just chart, oh, okay, whatever, now we're going to live in the rubble around us too. No, you carve it, and then you cart it off.
And
Okay.
every time you said it
What
was
happened with the
useful,
card
it's
off
about
stuff?
Jewelry.
So God
It's
is
the junk.
God is carving something.
He's carving something out, and
What's
he's
he carving
pushing it
out?
away.
What's he carving?
You can engrave rings, jewelry. That's what keeps coming to my mind when you engrave. You're engraving a ring. It's not garbage. It's gold.
But the part that
So I'm not
comes
thinking
off,
about
that's
that. I'm
just
thinking
gold.
like,
It's
You
still
know,
gold.
I think about Moshe Rabbeinu. He was told to hoe himself. Moshe Rabbeinu was told, you know, now that you broke the first tablet, you got to get yourself a second pair. And there's no sale on Amazon or on Sapphire. Yeah, he's like, where am I going to get Sapphire from, right? Like that much, that heavy, right? Okay, underneath your tent, there's a mine of sapphire, right?
That would be cool.
So he mined and he hoed out these tablets,
Wow.
new tablets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Underneath his tent, right? Big rule in that. Very deep
Where
mystic.
is it written?
The jewels are always right in here.
But
You know that.
where is it written?
It's a midrash.
Okay.
It's a midrash.
Where is it written? Is it in the Torah where it says, Ein od milchamo?
Ein od milvado is in the book of Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy?
Yes. Anyways, so he was told, and then the leftovers, he says, he looks to God and he goes, you got to do something with that? You got a plan? No, you can have it. God says you can take it. Giddy up. That's how Moshe Rabbeinu became rich. That's the end of the
He
midrash.
was rich?
I guess he wasn't rich until then. They say that's where Moshe Rabbeinu became rich. Now there's deep metaphor that's cloaked in midrashim, many, many layers to take apart with. Okay, but there was a hoeing out, and there was some fragments left over that was worth something, of sapphire. Okay, so we got pieces now of a puzzle. You got what you chisel out. Either you remove as refuse, or it can be used for someone. Okay.
or that could be the someone. So what he carved out, the remainder was us.
My first impression was always it's taught down that God carved from himself, from his essence, the soul of man. Okay? Our souls are carved from God. And, so we come from such a high place. Okay? That's one. I get another impression of an engraving, which is that a person is taught the entire Torah while they're in the stomach of their mother, including a tour of Gehenna and Gan Eden, right? Maybe some other tours, not Disneyland. That's Gehenna. Waiting in line in Space Mountain in 110-degree weather. Okay, sorry about that. I got stuck this summer with that. Okay, I didn't have the fast pass.
No fast pass.
The fast pass is very limited. You
Gotta
can't
get
register another fast
You gotta
pass
get there
if you're
early.
already registered for one fast pass, only one fast pass at a time.
Okay.
Forget it.
Alright.
The person in the stomach of their mother is taught the entire Torah, and then when they're born, of course, they're slapped by the angel and they forget everything, and they ask the question, what's the point? So they explain that when the angel is teaching the soul, it's chisel. It's engraving. He's engraving the message, and then when they slap and the person forgets, it's covering over with dust.
But we still have it.
But
But
it's so there. You
deep.
just got to remove the dust.
Yeah.
You just got to remove the dust. Just got to get the dust off, and the mess, it's there. The lathe, the heart, the depths, it's engraved. It's part of the essence, okay? A person doesn't think that, and they get caught up in external stuff, but no, everything's about getting into the essence, okay? So the word chakak is very closely related to the concept of writing. The main difference between engraving and writing is that when one writes, one adds material such as ink to the writing surface, while when one engraves, he removes material. When the Bible uses the word chakak to designate writing, it's referred to such system as, what's this? How do you pronounce this?
Cuneiform.
How do you call it?
Cuneiform.
Okay, cuneiform. Is that something that grows on the nails, ends of the nails?
No, it's a
Okay,
type of
fine.
Sumerian
Okay,
writing.
fine. I got you.
It's triangular shaped writing, you impress
Just
it
making
in
sure
the
you're
wet
all up.
clay.
Hmm?
You take a stylus and you impress it, you indent it into the wet clay.
Thank you.
Triangle shape.
Okay, where the text was written by removing wedges of clay from a tablet, he describes it here. To understand why the author uses the term engraved here, we must understand the idea of creation. Before a universe could be created, empty space had to exist in which it could be made. But initially, only God existed, and all existence was filled with the divine essence, the light of the infinite Ein Sof, the Or Ein Sof. It was out of this undifferentiated essence that a vacated space had to be engraved. So here's he goes. Step one about the engraving. He had to carve within himself, okay, to make a vacated space. The process known to the Kabbalists is called tzimtzum, or constriction, right? And it's clearly described in the Zohar. He brings this strange language from the Zohar. In the beginning of God's authority, the lamp of darkness engraved a hollow in the supernal luminescence, etc. Okay? Just get the idea of what a lamp of darkness is, okay? The hollow engraved in the supernal luminescence was called the vacated space, in which all creation subsequently occurred. By the way, we all understand, and it should be given anybody who goes to my classes, that it's not a literal vacated space, okay? It's conceptual completely, and because there's no spot where God is not. The undifferentiated light of the infinite, which existed before the constriction, is on the level of wisdom, which is pure, undelineated mind. The power of constriction is that of understanding. This being what the Zohar calls the lamp of darkness, because that's where the lamp of darkness is. In other words, if you're experiencing light all the time, you cannot appreciate it. You have to experience some darkness, some differentiation. It is negative light or negative existence which can engrave a hollow in the divine essence. And really what I've spoken to in other classes that has been asked, what is it that was not included in God that he made to this vacated space? In other words, what is outside of God that could possibly exist, that could enable this vacated space to exist? And we answered, Ratzon L'Kabel, will to receive. Everything is made up in our universe is will to receive. That's the code of the universe.
But it's like,
We're all stuck with it.
it's like an empty sock. There's
I don't
no
think
space
this-
in it
does the
until
sock-
you put something in it.
Okay, I guess if you speak to your sock will say, please put your foot in me. Okay, I guess so. Okay, it works. What?
Use it like
My sock, yes, I've done that before, and it also you could some socks,
Sock puppets.
they talk also in the dryer, as Jerry Seinfeld said, right?
What
One
is-
sock says to the other, "Tonight I'm escaping. Right? I'm out. I'm making a break, right? Because you can never put the pairs together ever. All men will say that. Where does this pair to this sock go to? Okay. In any case, the idea of Ratzon L'Kabel, which we're all made up of, what's called dark matter, okay? Will to receive. We're all stuck with it. Everything is stuck with it, okay? We have the incredible opportunity to convert it, to make our will to receive on the condition that we're giving. In other words, we're willing to receive only on the condition that we're giving through our receiving. And that we do on Rosh Hashanah. That's right. Rabbi Nachman says, every single thing you strive for is only that there's more God in the world. The only thing, you'll notice all the liturgy, all the prayers in the entire Rosh Hashanah is, God, just more of you here now. Every single thing is just that. In other words, you have to step out of your will to receive, and you say, I just want you to rule over the entire world. You should penetrate the hearts of all of humanity. All of the liturgy has to do with that. So this constriction or hollowing of the divine essence did not occur in physical space, right, like we say, but rather conceptual space. It is, quote unquote, hollow insofar as it contains now you guys got to help me with this. It contains the possibility for information, but not actual information. I'll stop the tape here. Guys, help me out with this line. In other words, I underlined it because I probably never even figured it out when I read it. I can understand the concept of possibility for information, but not actual information. What is actual information?
That's limited. Actual information is limited.
Is it?
Sure.
Actual information is almost physical compared to.
It's hollow insofar as it contains the possibility for information.
Right.
In other words, we don't get it. An empty space. It's not informed yet. By the word informed is really cool. The word informed. Inform. Put form in. To put a form. To give form. But it's unformed. So it's possibility, potential for information. Okay, like a blank slate, okay? But the information is not there, okay? As such, it is the chaos and void mentioned in the account of creation where the scripture states the earth was chaos and void. Chaos is the state where information can exist, but where it does not exist. Thank you very much. I wouldn't call it chaos. Why not just like a desert? The desert's good. Blank chalkboard's good. Has to be chaos, okay? Balagan. Okay? I guess we can appreciate when our lives are in a state of chaos. Okay? That we're waiting for something to be born from the chaos. The hollow was made through the 32 paths, since letters and digits are the basic bits of information. While random letters and numbers do not actually convey information, as long as they exist, it is also possible for information to exist. In other words, random numbers and letters isn't much. I tell the people in computers, it's all zeros and ones, right? If you see zeros and ones, can you make sense of it? Can you make sense of it?
No.
Nobody can make sense of it?
If you know binary, you can make something.
Cool. Somebody can make sense of it. Okay? The vacated space is therefore the state where it is possible for information to exist, but where where the possibility has not been realized. Almost very similar to the state of undifferentiated mind. Once again, empty the thoughts in your mind. These letters were subsequently combined into words, forming the 10 sayings of creation. Each of these sayings brought information into the vacated space through which creation could take place there. The order was therefore first engraving and then creation. So the Sefer Yetzirah therefore states that the Creator engraved and created his universe. Okay, so that's where we get into. That's why there's two functions in the very beginning. 32, lathe. Engraved, we need a vacated space, a potential. And then you'll have the actual, which is the created, bringing it about. Okay? The idea here for us to bring home is how do we do that in our lives as well. It's great. We're heading to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the reset button. Okay? Completely reset. It's the birthday of mankind. And it's not and that means, I heard my wife came home from a class last night.
Yes.
It was a fantastic class because she read it to me, and as soon as I heard it, I'm like, perfect. It made so much sense. Because really what it is, it's to reset the perception. The world is always in a crisis of perception. And here's the one day where you get to reset your perception. Okay? Because everything, we are unbelievably creative beings. Okay? We're created in the image and likeness of God. Wake up! You're created in the image and likeness of God. That's the day where you have to realize you're created in the image and likeness of God. And therefore, you have to start to create. Okay, so there's the day, the beginning. And this beginning, of course, sets the pace for the rest of the year. What you think on those 2 days sets the pace for the rest of the year. So you get to align your perception, realign. All the year you were involved in shtuyot. You know, everybody know what shtuyot means? Silly. You were silly. You were involved in silliness.
Nonsense.
What?
Frivolity and silliness.
Silly?
Yeah. Yes, you were in Camelot, where it's a silly place. Silly place. Okay? Don't go to Camelot. It's a silly place. Okay? In any case, we're involved in all kinds of things, worldly matters, mundane, materialistic things. You got to realign. And it all starts with the perception. Okay? God is all there is. Ain't so rules. Okay? So the idea really is on those days, but we align ourselves. Okay? So it's almost like on that day there was an engraving and a creation. It's an empty space. What am I? What am I? It's a rebirth that day. The reset button. And the first 10 days, what you do those first 10 days, very powerful. The little things you can do, and if you think about it, you could do something so small, but make sure you're committed. Once again, that word commitment, right? Nasty 4-letter word commitment, right? What you commit to do those 10 days, unbelievably powerful those first 10 days, okay? And Rabbi Tats, Akiva Tats, he associates it with, when the genes are first forming in the child. Where you can form it in the genes. If you form it in the genes, right, you can affect the child. But if you're waiting and you don't, and then the child is already born and has got problems, it's very hard to change after. Okay? So those first 10 days, you can affect all the changes. But if you wait, and after those 10 days, okay, it might take a lot more energy to affect a serious change. Okay? So now we're getting to the words of the name of God. And we have to understand the name of God. Is everybody there on page 14? Engraved Ka. It says Yud Hey. Yud Hey are the first 2 letters of the Tetragrammaton. So this is where everything started. Many of the Kabbalistic commentaries translate this as He engraved Ka, which means in Hebrew the word He is often not written out. I know. There's nothing I can do about it. I've got a battery connected. It just ran out of charge. It is what it is.
Want a battery charger?
What? You have a charger?
Yeah.
Cool. Did it stop? Okay.
You have to plug into something. Yeah.
Oh, we have to plug it in?
Yeah.
Oh, if you got to plug it in the wall, forget it. It's not charged?
No,
it probably is. You can try it.
It's all good.
No, it may be charged. It's been plugged in all day.
I don't think it works with this. I think it has to be plugged in.
Okay.
We're almost done.
Through electromagnetic induction.
Yeah. There's only like a few minutes, so.
Okay. So in many of the Kabbalistic commentaries translate this as He engraved Ka. He engraved Ka. Here he translated as engraved Ka, but he wants to note something, that something is engraving Yud and Hey. There's another text that reads differently. So the Hebrew word, in Hebrew the word He is often not written out, but understood from the verb form. The He here refers to the infinite being, the Ein Sof, who is above all the divine names. Okay, because something very important in Judaism that we have to always understand, that the infinite creative intelligence really has no name or no concept. What we have by the names of God are concepts. Once you have a concept, that's not it. Okay, that's not God. Okay? Like I always talk about in the classes, my father-in-law would say, if you come into the room and you go, I got it. God is not the table. Wow, that's great. And a guy would come in and say, wow, I got it. God is not the table and not the chair. That person is closer to a concept of God than the first guy, because he's got more knots. The more knots you are, the closer to the concept that you are. You get it? It's a mila shlili. It's a negation word. Ein sof means no end. It's a negation word. That's the highest concept. Okay? You could just sit, light a candle, and just go, Ein sof is all there is. Just meditate on that for an hour. Okay? Ein sof is all there is. Ein sof is all there is. Okay?
Well, yeah.
How are we doing in time? A few more minutes.
Without end.
According to this, the Sefer Yetzirah is saying that the infinite being began creation by engraving the divine names through the 32 paths of wisdom. The names are written with letters, and they can only come into being after the letters had been created. It is in the same vein that some of the early Kabbalists interpret the first verse in Genesis to read, "In the beginning He created Elohim." That was a very dangerous way to interpret it. Okay.
Or Ed created.
When you say Bereshit bara Elohim, right?
And
People were thinking that, right, that they would read it with a he in there. So, you know, when the I think it was the Greeks pulled in, right, the 70 sages of Israel to translate the Torah into the first. It was Greek, right? He pulled them in separate rooms, right? Hashem helped them, right? Because they had to make changes, because otherwise it was going to mess them up. So one of the changes was the very first verse, to understand in the beginning of God's creation instead, because people would interpret there's a lot of other places where they had to, and they all were connected, right? And they made exactly the same translation the exact same way, okay? It's not to mess them up. The first thing that the infinite being created was the name of Elohim, which is associated with constriction. The divine names also parallel the Sefirot. That's in the Sefer called Sharei, what's it called? Gates of Light, Sharei Ora, by Yosef Gikatia. Okay? He wrote that each one of the Sefirot, there's a different name for each Sefirah. Once the vacated space had been engraved, the Sefirot could be created inside it. The engraving of this space was therefore all intimately related to these names. Okay, so this can also be read in the imperative. Okay, so this is more like what we're going to try to endeavor. With 32 mystical paths of wisdom, you engrave Yud K, and you create the world. That, as we know, the biggest understanding that we're going to try to move into in the next coming weeks is that this is an instruction book of how you have to meditate. Okay? So there's a way that it's really giving an instruction of telling you what you have to do and how you have to think. Okay? So with 32 mystical paths of wisdom, engrave Ka and create his world. The term engrave here would mean to form a clear mental image of the name so as to meditate on it. As we will discuss later in 114, the method is alluded to in Rava's saying, if the righteous desired, they could create a world. That's in Sanhedrin 65b. Okay? So in other words, and that's where we're headed to, believe it or not, and we cannot limit ourselves. Once we investigate this and use the letters in prayer, you can create things. Okay? Be careful. Okay? What you ask for. Okay? Okay? Think through. But it's an unbelievable idea to get in touch with our creative self. Okay? That understanding how we work in terms of that we're made in the image and likeness of God, we're also beings, and it's true, and it's coming out more and more. We are creating our destiny. When are we going to wake up to that? Okay? And the idea really here is, do you have to get yourself on track with the right thoughts? Because why? We've been creating our lives the entire time. And once we wake up to that and re-rail ourselves on the right path, okay? It's unbelievable. God took a spark of himself, threw us down in the mud, and now we have to crawl our way out. part of that crawling our way out is to realize how powerful we are, okay? And that all of the muckery that we're crawling into, deep and deep, we're doing it, okay? And the good stuff too, okay? That we're open to. God is the ultimate source, but he gives us such an endowment of creativity, okay? So with that, we have some basic understanding of the 32 paths. We have an understanding of engraved, okay, will to receive, undifferentiated mind, and God willing, Yom Hashem, we'll go right to the 3 books next time, okay, because we have to discuss the 3 books. All right.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
you told us that the reason that